Dick, let me
Yes.
just, I'm just happy to do this with me today. I think I have known you. I think I said to you one time, I first met you when the apps for smartphones were coming out. And you told me at lunch about the New York Times had an app, and I was just wow that there could be such a thing. And so that shows you how long I've known you back when
And
smartphones were
and
just
that's probably why you continue to be a liberal.
that's probably true. That's probably That's probably true. I do go that way as opposed to some of the other articles or magazines or newspapers that you might see. But my best friends are conservative. Of course, that would be almost everybody because, as you say, I'm the most liberal one of everybody. So I wasn't always that way. I wasn't always that way. I'm the reverse of Churchill's line, about if you're young and not a liberal, you have no heart, and if you're old and not a conservative, you have no brain. I think there's a lot of truth to that, but I've reversed it.
I have the poor man's version of that, and that is you're a liberal until you've been mugged.
Well, that would be true. That would be true. I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that at all. As a beginning, tell me about where you grew up and how you navigated from. I think you grew up in Southern California.
Yes.
And how you went from Southern California to New York City and why.
Okay, it's a pretty simple story. I grew up in Altadena, which is right next to Pasadena, where the Rose Bowl is in Southern California. Went to a large public high school. We had 861 students in my one class in high school. I was a good student, did well, wound up getting a 4-year full paid Union Carbide scholarship to Yale. Applied to a bunch of schools. One quick little thing. It's funny. My grandmother loved me dearly. My mother's mom. She wanted me to stay in California. So when I got these scholarships, one of them was for Stanford and Palo Alto. And she tried to bribe me to stay in the West Coast by saying she would buy me a little red MG convertible if I didn't go to Yale and I went to Stanford. Now that made it a tough choice. But I'd met a couple of Yaleys, et cetera, and I wanted to go east. I wanted to see the world. So I went to Yale.
Then
And
didn't get the car.
And didn't get the car, didn't get diddly. Pissed my grandmother off.
I understand.
And she was probably 85 at the time, whatever. So in any event, I go to Yale, I do okay. And then Yale was all male at that point. And my dad was an FBI agent, middle class. We didn't really have any money for grad school, and I didn't have any money. So I went to University of California at Berkeley, Bolt Hall, which was then the best law school on the West Coast. And amazingly, Jim, everybody ahead of me in my class ranking wanted to work in LA or San Francisco. So I was the top ranked guy in my law school class that wanted to go to New York. So I had the pick of the litter when I interviewed New York firms. And happily, I chose a good one. I fell in love with my law firm. I stayed there 30 years. It was just fabulous. Great people, great mentors, everything. And so I wound up practicing law in New York City. Did very well. I mean, made partners in the classic 7 years. There's the old Cravath formula of pyramid, and you work your way up it. And got to see the world, got great cases, had great mentors, really liked it. So, and New York City, living in Manhattan, is sort of for a young person. I mean, it's a little hard when you're 60 years old money insulates you a lot from the hassle, but still, it's a fabulous town when you're in your 30s and 40s. I mean, it just is. And so the world was my oyster, and I can go on and on about it, but I got wonderful assignments from seniors who trusted me. I got to run a lot of big shows internationally and in federal courts in the U.S., and it was really fun. Then they asked me to run my Stamford, Connecticut office of the law firm, 25 lawyers there. I ran that for a while. And then at age 50, Jim, I woke up one day and I said, hell, all I ever do is work. All I ever do is work. Litigation, big time litigation, is like a war. I mean, you're on a warfare footing all the time. The adversary system is truly adversarial when you're caught up in a huge lawsuit, and you're responsible for it. And you got corporate counsel looking over your shoulder every minute. So I could see that my older partners were getting divorced. I could see they had heart attacks. I could see in the hypothetical, they'd open up a medicine cabinet and see all these pills they had to take. And I said, hell, I don't want to be like that. I'm healthy. I'm happy. I got a great wife, got a great daughter. But I'm always working. So so when my firm proposed a couple amendments to the partnership agreement that, as it applied to me, would have required me, this is at age 50 now. I turned 50 in March, and I resigned in June because they came up with, at the end of the year, they're going to put in a change in the partnership that would have required me to stay on to age 55. And I said to my wife, I may not live until 55. I mean, I'm healthy as hell, but I'm just working my tail off. So she and I, with no plan, with no exit plan, with no job lined up, I just said to hell with it. I just cashed in. And then we had to take, so I just retired at age 50. And that was height of my earning years and all that, but I didn't care. I just wanted freedom. Okay. Just wanted freedom. So took care of my wife's mother for a couple of years in Greenwich. And then we said, let's go south. Let's go south to the Sun Belt. And we wound up in Wilmington, North Carolina. And we were very pleased. I've been here now 29, almost 30 years. Very pleased with that choice.
It was an accident that you wound up in Wilmington, isn't it?
Pretty much. I mean, we looked all over Asheville, New Bern, Southport, Wilmington, a bunch of other places, Charlotte, Lake Norman, you name it. And I happened to leave my laptop in Wilmington, so we had to come back and get it because we stayed with a friend. We only knew one person in North Carolina, and stayed with that good friend of my wife's. And I left my laptop there, so I had to return to get it. And without going into all the details, I was in a hurry to find someplace. So I just said, hell, Wilmington looks good. Let's do it. So we bought a house.
And stayed there ever since. And you were a litigator in New York, as I take it.
Yes, I did. The New York practice that I was in. I mean, I was in I defended the haves against the have-nots. I was on the establishment side. So our litigation was 90% plus in federal court or major international arbitrations. So, when you're in Manhattan, you take a cab to JFK and you're in London, 7 hours later. It's a pretty good life.
There's not as much litigation in Wilmington, North Carolina as there would be in Manhattan, I would take it.
Well, I mean, one is a huge pond or ocean, and the other is a relatively small pond. But the society is every bit as contentious down here as up there. So there is, in fact, a lot of litigation down here. So I wouldn't, if you did litigation per capita, I don't know where you come out, Jim.
Okay, but you don't do litigation now.
No, by happenstance, I had done some estate litigation in New York and Connecticut. And so when I came down here, well, getting ahead of the story, but came down here, I said, well, I want to do something. Took a few years off. I want to do something. And so I just put my thinking hat on and came up with estate planning for a bunch of reasons I could tell you. But it turned out to be a very wise choice.
What is it about estate planning that attracts you?
Well, I got the hell away from the adversarial system. And now I'm on the same side as my clients. I'm helping people figure out I view my job as pedantic, as an educator. My job is to educate my clients, which I like to do, to their options, tell them the pluses and minuses of each option. And then I tell them to go home, drink a bottle of wine, and figure out what they want to do. Do they want to use me or not? They want to use somebody else. They want to do a little bit or nothing. And I like the idea that the only enemy is the IRS, and they're pretty easy to outfox. They really are. And so I like helping people, and I get a lot. I've become, with my wife's help, I became a people person, developed my people skills a bit. And it's really nice to talk with people about their grandchildren and their son-in-law and their this and their that and what they would like to accomplish. And I enjoy that process.
I have met lots of people in the programs and seminars that I do who are in their 50s or getting a little bit older. They don't seem to be like you were. They seem to be getting tired, worn out, become more cynical, not as passionate about life. And that's not everybody, but there's a lot of that. How did you escape that and have an upbeat, optimistic viewpoint in your life at age 50?
Uh, that's sort of a hard question. Um, Probably I'm basically an optimist. I mean, it's obvious to me optimists have more fun in life than pessimists. Now,
Yes, I agree with that.
the pessimist always says, well, I'll be right in the end. But
Yeah.
meanwhile, life is a journey. You get more fun as an optimist. Why am I an optimist? Why did I have that ability to just move forward? Um, Probably a combination of my upbringing, my formative years. I was blessed with a good education. Um, I had a great wife who taught me. I had book learning; she had street smarts, and some of that rubbed off on me. And I just found that Jim, I could go on and on. I mean, one life view I have is you have the past, the present, and the future. An awful lot of people carry their past with them. They don't let go of the past. We can talk a lot about that. They just simply don't. And none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. We may plan for tomorrow, we have hopes for tomorrow, but none of us know when the number's up. So all you got is the present. And I learned to just be positive and think, be grateful. I think gratitude is a huge, I guess it's a virtue. I don't know. But I think we all have a lot more to be thankful for than we appreciate day to day. And if you start to be grateful about all the things, then you have a positive attitude. And attitude, you see those motivational speaker posters. Attitude is huge. Attitude is absolutely huge. Jim, do you like to go to breakfast with a downer, a person who's negative, or do you like to go to breakfast or have a meal or have a drink with someone who's positive? The answer is obvious, and that just sunk into me a long time ago. I would look at successful people and say, how do they behave? How do they learn? As opposed to people who are just carrying baggage around. And so it's so easy to let the past bring you down and color today, but it's gone. And I truly believe in new beginnings. That's one of the Christian values I sort of learned over time, Judaic Christian values.
You teach Sunday school in Wilmington.
To adults at a Methodist church.
And you've done that for how long?
Let's say 20 years, something like that.
You enjoy it, obviously.
Oh yeah, I surely do. I get
I told you what.
I get to stand up and talk, Jim. That's that.
That's right. That's right. That's right. It's a lot of fun, isn't it? And I can just remember that I taught Sunday school to senior high students one time years ago, and I think you probably prepare more for one Sunday than I did for the entire year, which may have shown in the quality of what we were doing and what we were talking about. But why do you like teaching Sunday school to adults?
Well, my wife brought me to a life of faith and belief that there is a creator, there is a God, we're here for a purpose, et cetera, et cetera. And I live such a busy life. I mean, I really do, that I don't find the time. I don't have the fortitude, not diligent enough to set aside time to read the Bible or read modern Christian literature, etc. So the only time that I find myself, so Sunday school forces me to actually do some preparation and reading, and I enjoy that immensely. I think there's a lot to be learned from Christian authors on all sorts of subjects. I mean, just take the book of Proverbs, a lot of wisdom in the book of Proverbs. And so when you get a chance to teach something like the book of Proverbs, it's terrific. And I just truly enjoy it. And I try and put in some music. I try and put in jokes, add humor. And I can tell you some stories that probably I shouldn't tell you about what I've said in Sunday school class. They wouldn't let me continue to teach, I suppose. So then there are no cameras rolling in that world. I mean, I suppose if you, in your experience, if you're teaching high schoolers, you got to sort of behave a bit. But if you're
That's true.
teaching people that are adults, you don't have to behave quite as much. And you can be a little more cavalier about getting the message across with stories and the like.
That's so true. That's so true. Let me ask you this. I remember you were telling me some years ago that you're speaking about Christian authors, Christian books. There was a book that you had recommended to me called Unafraid. What is that about?
Okay, it's written by Adam Hamilton, who is a Midwest mega church pastor. He's written more books than you and I can count. I mean, probably more books than you and I have read. He's written. And one is called Unafraid. And he deals with the subject of fear in a beautiful way. He points out, that fear is one of the gifts from God, that it is smart to be fearful of a saber-toothed tiger or a water moccasin, or getting in an elevator alone, a female getting alone with two swarthy looking guys who may not have her best interest at heart. So fear, it can be very helpful. But for a lot of people, fear holds them back. And he goes through, he itemizes, I'd have to make up the number, but maybe 20 different types of fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of aging, fear of dying, fear of being left alone, fear of not having enough money, fear of missing out on things. See, there's a whole chapter on each of these. And it's fascinating because we all have those fears. I mean, none of us are fearless. I mean, so, but that whole notion from the past, I won't get it right, that, the something like the fearful die 1,000 deaths, but the bold die but one. You can let fear really get in your way of a lot of things. And he takes each of those fears and tells us why it doesn't make any sense. You got to approach it from the intellectual and the emotional side. And he deals with both. And he weaves some scripture in, but not all that much. It's not, it's not a book about the Bible or what the Bible says, really. It's a sort of a practical how-to book to deal with one's fear. And let me finish one more thought, Jim. In my mind, a great deal of fear is based upon worry. A person is worried about tomorrow. Well, my view of the world is that an awful lot of the things we worry about never come to pass. They just don't happen. People are worried about all sorts of things that never happen. And if you sit back and analyze that, that makes no sense. Why the hell am I worried about a car accident tomorrow when the odds of my being in a car accident tomorrow are de minimis? So that's maybe a poor example, but a lot of people just let fear restrain them and control them. And I refuse to live life that way. And the book gives you all sorts. It's a how-to book. It's a how to approach this issue or that issue. And I just found it to be very, very informative.
You spoke a few minutes ago about new beginnings and starting over, that sort of thing, or as you said, starting over your life in North Carolina or the South compared to New York. What, and I asked you how you were able to do that. What traits could you suggest to somebody whom you did not know as to what is necessary or helpful in getting the courage to start over and try new things, new position in life?
That's a tough question. It really is. And, people are different. It's not a one size fits all. And I don't think there's any succinct magic formula that is going to work for everybody. I can only talk about my experience. And I'm not enough of a student of people to know how to generalize from my experience to how it might help somebody else. I view, I mean, I've come to believe, and this is narcissistic and it's probably braggadocio and whatever, I've come to believe that I can do anything I set my mind to. Now, obviously, if someone's trapped in a job at 57, and they would like to be a doctor, they're probably not going to go to med school. I mean, there's some things you age out of, obviously. You're not going to make the Olympic team when you're 57. A whole bunch of childhood dreams have gone away. So, but there's still tomorrow. And this notion of I can't is a very limiting self-belief. And a lot of people say, I can't, and that's based on emotion. It's not based on intellect, in my view of the world. I think an awful lot of people can do a hell of a lot more than they think they can. They've never looked into it. They've never explored it. There's a fear of failure. That's one of the chapters in the book. Jim, it's very hard for me to say why it is that I found it easy to make a big change without being fearful of the future. I don't know if I told you, but I was telling this to somebody a year ago. Now, this sounds really pompous, I guess. I'm not afraid of anything. Period. I know I'm going to die. I don't know when. There's no way I can tell when I'm going to die. There's no way I can tell how I'm going to, what's going to take me, or when, or how, or painful, or easy, whatever. Who knows? I can only control what I can control, and I let the rest of it just play it out. I can't control what other people think of me. I can't control how other people deal with me. I sure as hell can control how I look at the world, how I deal with people, and I can do tomorrow whatever I want to do tomorrow. Yeah, you got some economic restraints and commitments to clients and so forth, but if I want to learn to play I don't. I love tennis. If I want to learn to play pickleball tomorrow, I can do that. If I want to learn the Texas two-step tomorrow in a dance class, I can do that. I probably can't play a guitar because I'm pretty tone deaf. I mean, there's some things maybe you don't have the natural ability to, but most people go through life saying, I can't, and I basically refuse to adopt that. Now, why am I so different that I feel that way? Who the hell knows? I think, my parents, both my wife, who died 2.5 years ago, and I had fabulous parents. They told us the old American dream: you're going to have a better life than we have. We're working to make that happen. And you can be anything you want to be. You can do anything you want. Now, a lot of kids start out that way. Fabulous to be told as a youngster, you're good. You can do whatever you want to do in life. And people start out that way. And then slowly but surely, things happen and life starts to narrow that vision, that dream. And you have these various disappointments along the way. And most people's life becomes narrower and narrower over time as they age in terms of their desires. Oh, I could have done that in the past. I can't do that now, etc. I don't believe that. I think you can do a lot more than you think you can. Let me finish. The other thought is, having read a couple books on this subject in the distant past, it's extremely important to have goals. And you just can't have a list of goals. You got to take the goals, whatever they are, the goals that matter to you, and then break them down into concrete steps in writing in a logical order as to how you would approach getting to that goal. And if you just do one thing a week or one thing a day that moves you a little bit closer to that next item on the list, you're moving towards your goal. And it's like losing weight. When you start to lose a pound or two, you say, hey, this is sort of working, I'll keep it up. And so when you see that you've actually moved closer towards something you really want, that gets the endorphins going or whatever. It makes you want to continue. And it can sort of be a self-fulfilling prophecy if you've got the right attitude.
You recently turned 80. Is that right?
You're rubbing it in. Yes. Less than a week ago.
Well, there's a reason for me to rub it in with you, and that is this. As I recall, you are one of those people. Most people dread types of birthdays. At the same time, I recall you set up your own birthday celebration at a restaurant in Wilmington, made the reservation, took a lot of people, had a big table and a great time. How do you, at the age of 80, excited about living in the present, making plans for the immediate future and doing things? That is something that I think lots of people would like to imitate, but don't know how to do that. Is that what you say about living in the present and making the most of today? Is that what you're talking about?
I suppose, I mean, on that narrow point of a birthday party, I had wonderful friends and family that organized a big 50th bash for me and a 60th and a 70th. Okay. Close friends, family, just laid on a nice affair. And I said, to hell with it. This time I'm a control freak. I'm going to set it up, get the people I want. I don't need a big show. My ego doesn't demand that. I just want the immediate family, and all I had was 3 additional couples I'm very close to in Wilmington that I've known for years. So I just wanted a small affair where we could tell our old war stories and laugh at each other, and with a lot of wine, and that worked out great. How you get to that frame of mind, Jim, that you've described, that I guess I have, I don't know. I mean, what made me me? I don't know. One thing, I've had great health, and that's huge. I mean, I fully understand that when someone has migraine headaches all the time, or has a thyroid disorder, or has this or that, that can really put a crimp on one's abilities and outlook. But my goodness, you look at these soldiers coming back from battlefields, missing limbs and the like, and some of them go forward in such a remarkable, courageous way and have very successful lives. And so, because somehow they found the fortitude to push through it. It doesn't mean it's easy, but there are all sorts of people that had all sorts of adversities. I mean, you take Bocelli, the poor guy is blind. He sings the best in the world. All sorts of examples of people who either are born with or wind up with some illness or something. And boy, they turn it into lemonade from lemons. But what it is about me or anybody else that allows them to have that view and to do it, Jim, I really don't know. My upbringing, my education, my intellect, my Judeo-Christian values, my wife hit me over the head with. I got a wonderful support group. I got great friends, great family. They love me, and so I've had a lot of blessings. And no hardships. Yeah, I lost a wife. I get that, but that's just life. But I've had no hardships in my life, so it's made it very easy for me, Jim. Okay, I mean, I've been on cruise, and that may seem unfair to some people. In effect, why has Dick been so damn lucky and I haven't been? I don't really know the answer to that.
But don't you think, to some degree, you make your own luck, or you make your own future?
Oh, I truly believe that. Oh, amen. I truly believe that.
I mean, it's not really just a cruise. I mean, if it is a cruise, you are the cruise director, I would say.
Okay. I mean, I truly believe that a person is in fact in control of their life. They don't have to let their finances, their race, their economic status, their past jobs, their disabilities, they don't have to let all those things define them. And they don't have to let all those things limit their opportunities. there are plenty of people who have made mid-course corrections from one occupation to another and been very happy. Now, you may not be a heart surgeon, starting later in life to do something, but my goodness, there are plenty of opportunities to get involved. And you referred in the recent CLE course to that Harvard study over something like 80 years, 800 Harvard folks and 800 comparable number of high school Boston people. And the number one thing that they found with all the statistical analysis of leading a successful life is your relationship with other people. And so those who have loving, good, valuable relationships, whether they're friends, family, whatever, they're the people who have a happy, successful life. And so you can't be an island. You got to get out there in some fashion and say hello to the neighbor and chat with them and see what's going on in their life and show them that you care a bit, and they will reciprocate. People want community. People want relationships. And you've got to get yourself in a position where you want them to, and you nourish them. And if you have good relationships with people, you can go play bingo if you want, whatever the thing is, you go bowling with friends, whatever it is, but you need those friends to spend time with and drink with and laugh with and so forth and tell stories. So friendships, I think, / relationships are, as that study showed, an extremely important part of life. And it's in effect, a support group.
You have continued after the passing of your wife a couple of years ago. I remember you're telling me one time that as she was getting ready to leave you, you and your daughter, I think, were there, as I recall.
Right.
And you said to her, or whispered to her, to not worry, that the two of you all would be happy again.
Mm-hmm.
How would you say that you are today? Are you a happy person today?
Yes. One word answer, yes.
How did you do that? How did you get past a major loss and become happy again?
Well, my wife told me to. She could boss me around once in a while. And she made it clear that she wanted both me and my daughter, who's now age 50 and would say 47, 48 when my wife died. She wanted us to be happy again. She knew we would miss her. She knew we would grieve. But she made it clear that we were to be happy again. And so I just saluted the flag and said, yes, ma'am. And that's a function of attitude. Obviously, my wife was going to die at some point. Obviously, I'm going to die at some point. Hopefully, my 7-year-old grandson doesn't die in my life, but one never knows. And losing a child is absolutely the worst thing that can happen. But losing a wife of 40 years, I mean, we had such a good run, Jim. We had it, delightful. So you can't get too greedy. I mean, we had such a good run. I have no regrets about that. I mean, sorry she had ovarian cancer and it was painful and this and that, and it extended over a period of time. But so she didn't go out easily, so to speak, in terms of pain. But boy, she went out easily in terms of attitude. So you just can't let an incident like that. Of course, you're going to lose family members. I've lost a brother. I've lost 2 parents, obviously, at this age. Actually, my first wife of ages ago died, also ovarian cancer. This goes back a long, long time, 50 years, 40 years. But you just can't let something like that control your life. You got to take control of your own life. You and you alone control your life, your attitude, your viewpoint. And I just resolved to be happy. It's that simple. And look at all the great things I got in my life. Why the hell wouldn't I be happy?
So what are your plans for the next several months? This is March.
Well, I have a lady friend now, and we're going to go to Charleston for 10 days. where I'm going to go with a friend of my wife from the distant past, who I've kept up with, a psychiatrist. She and I are very platonic, but she and I are going to Malta and Sicily for about 17 days. Long time for Malta and Sicily, but we're going to do it. And she speaks fluent Italian, so we're going to have, and she's a good drinking companion, so we're going to have fun. And then I'm thinking about trying to do a Switzerland rail trip. Switzerland is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous in the warm summer months. So in May or September, I want to take the trains all around Switzerland and see the scenery. You know, so I got plans, Jim. I got plans.
You still have your convertible?
Oh yeah, I'm not giving that up. It's a 2002 little roadster, and I'm low mileage, and I'm hanging on to that.
Good for you. But Dick, it's been fun talking to you. I think this has just been a good time. And anything else you have on your mind that you want to say that I haven't asked you about?
No, in a prior interview that you and I did maybe 3-4 years ago, you know, we waxed philosophical on the meaning of life, or
Right.
or things like that. And I'm sort of happy today we didn't get into that, because what do I know about that? You know, what do I know? I just make it up as I go along. So, you know, I'm all set, Jim.
Well, you know, the purpose of what I'm trying to do with these podcasts is, this is a new venture for me, is it's title's grit, but it's also about stories of resilience and how to start over and come back and new beginnings. And it just seems to me that you're such an appropriate person to talk to about that, because you've lived a long time and got a lot of wisdom that you can let people hear, and that's a very valuable thing. You do want to, you know, one of my favorite lines, as you heard me say before, that despite anybody's age, wouldn't it be interesting if the best thing you've ever done you had not yet done? It was still ahead of you.
Oh, and, yeah. And that's possible. My goodness, that's possible.
Well, and I just think doing this, who would have thought that sitting down for an interview for 30 or 35 or 40 minutes on a Thursday in March might turn out for someone else to be one of the best things you've done. So thank you so much for doing that today.
You're welcome, Jim. I had one more thought and I probably did in the interview, that I always thought is a fabulous thought that some people might get some value out of, and that is this Indian American philosopher Deepak Chopra had this great program. He was a star in Oprah, you know, 15, 20 years ago, whatever. But he had this great concept, and that is, he just looks at his hand and he says, that's my hand. It's always been my hand, but my hand has never been like it was in the past. Every molecule, every atom, if you will, every molecule, I guess you'd say, every cell, you look at your hand, every cell in your hand is relatively new. My hand today is, from a biological point of view, a brand new hand. You go back 10 years, there's not one cell in my hand today that was there 10 years ago. Everything is continuing to renew. And if God gave us a body that renews itself all the time, isn't that a wonderful concept to have in mind about one's future? If I have a new hand, Jim, maybe I really could learn to play the piano tomorrow. Never tried, don't want to, I'm tone deaf, but the point is I might have these abilities because my hand is brand new compared to the past. And I just think that that's a marvelous, I guess it's an intellectual concept, but it's apparently true. I got a new hand, Jim. Isn't that amazing? For what it suggests about the future.
Well, I don't think I can top that. So that's a good place to stop.
Okay. Well, thanks for your time and doing this, Jim. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much.